Okay, activate your microphone.
We did our
Anything you say can and will be used. Better turn mine on
welcoming
too.
Santa and all of that.
Clock
Small
on the
Business
wall
Saturday.
says it's 3 o'clock. We'll call the meeting to order. We have minutes from the November 13th meeting. Everybody, I'm sure, has read them. Do we have any additions, corrections? Motion to approve? Paula?
Second.
David, seconded. Additional conversation, discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We have official minutes. The chairman's report, I only have one thing to talk about, and something we talked about briefly last meeting, and been a lot of chatter online, and that's about our elections. By our procedures, we elect a new chair and vice chair in the first meeting in January. Charlie has been vice chair for the year, and by acclamation, we'll crown him next month as our new chair of the Economic Development Commission and Tourism Commission. Thank you for your willingness to serve. And we have had two people who have said, we'd like to be vice chair. Paula is one, and Judy Gifford is the other. So we will have a contested secret ballot to vote for our vice chair position. At the meeting in January, we will ask for a brief statement from each about your interest, your goals and objectives. I'll limit it to 30 seconds, or however much time you want to take to let your colleagues know of your interest and specifically how that interest may focus going forward. But thank you both. I can't tell you how pleased I am that we have not one but two people who are interested in leadership roles and keeping Charlie straight. And that's a full-time job. Jamie is on her way. She's commuting back from Cambridge. So depending on whether the Chester River Bridge is up or not, she will be here momentarily. We do have a report today and would like to welcome Larry Diary, Manager, and Bradley Moore, Town Planning and Zoning Administrator from the town of Chestertown. Gentlemen, if you would like to, I think that microphone is activated.
It is like it.
Assume the desk chairs or the guest chairs and tell us what's new, other than you guys.
I get older every day. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Thank you for the invitation to be here to update some information from Chestertown on what is, and in fact, perhaps more importantly, what actually isn't happening at this point in time. Bradley Moore is our new town zoning administrator and town planner. Came on board in middle of September. Had some transition time with Case Des Moines. Case was an invaluable member of our staff for a number of years. He had a good transition with Bradley, so some of that wisdom has moved on, but we're happy to have the new wisdom on our team as well. So I'll let Bradley speak for himself to do any more introduction than that.
Yeah, I'll just give a very brief introduction. I'm Bradley Moore. I finished a Master's of Public Policy program at the University of Delaware in May. This is my first job out. Previous to that, I worked in the legal field for 15 years in the Washington, D.C. area. Decided I wanted to change to move into public service, and, you know, a couple things go before each other, and here I am.
Good. Welcome.
Thank you.
So before we get into some of the things that are happening, what's not happening? The town has not received any drawings, applications, anything actionable for either 98 Cannon or for the next phase of the Armory project. So that's, my expectation is that work is ongoing, but since nothing's come to town hall, we don't have anything that can move forward at this point in time. As soon as it does, it'll be posted and it'll move through the appropriate channels. 98 Cannon was going to have to go to the Historic District Review Board for design review. And the next phase of the Armory project or hotel project, I guess, depending on your perspective, it'll still have to go to Historic District Review. Historic District Commission, as well as Planning Commission, since it's commercial development. So at this point, there's still plenty of process still in play for both of those projects. Otherwise, got some smaller scale things going on, a number of them on Washington College campus. Bradley's been working on those, so we can hit the college and then maybe move to some of the other commercial infill projects.
Yeah, the main thing with the college right now is the development of a indoor tennis facility. So that has, I think, gone past the preliminary phase. There were some issues in terms of the material for the building, but now and the initial concept, but that has gone through the planning commission a couple times. The most recent meeting, there was a agreement about how to best move forward. We will see in the coming months whether to put a final approval ahead, but that's I think the major project right now with the college that we're aware of.
On the infill side, we've got, which project is there for on the, rental car place is one.
Oh,
On the
yeah,
High Street, I believe it's 835 High Street,
yes.
Right by Subway.
830 High
the
Street.
building by Subway.
Yeah, yeah,
Which has been vacant for a prolonged period of time.
right. So there's been, and Enterprise is interested in that property, so there may be some elements that need to go through a zoning process, but
Which property next to Subway?
Yeah.
The old, not the old tavern.
No, it's,
No.
well, it's that duplex, it's that commercial duplex-looking place. It's low rise with a big parking lot up front.
Okay, yeah, I know what you mean.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So is that going forward?
Yeah,
They've submitted a zoning text amendment, that's gonna be put before the planning commission, and we see what happens, but there's, so one, it's not a permitted use as of now, but the other part is there's language within the zoning ordinance that suggests that there's a want for a removal of an automobile-dominated environment. Now, given the fact that this is an already pre-existing site, that there's not going to be, this is not a completely new development. This is something that this building is already in place, and this would just be a relocation from Flatland Drive over here. I see that as reasonable to make a way within the zoning ordinance to make that happen, but we will see what happens.
Are they planning to enlarge their scope of activity in that new, in the?
My understanding is
No.
no, that it's just a relocation from their little site next to, is it the ELB Collision? Yeah, that they just have a very small office, and they're just, my understanding is they just want to relocate a small fleet of cars that would come in on a rotating basis to that site.
They'll staff it full time.
Yeah, that you have to ask Enterprise.
yeah, and if you've been there, you know that parking lot comes in handy for Subway, but it's not Subway's parking lot. So there may need to be some accommodations worked out between the two property owners on that, as far as a shared parking location is concerned. But they've shown, at least when I took a walk through with them, they've shown me where the footprint of the rental cars are going to go, mostly in the back. And when you consider there's already auto repair, car wash, gas stations, I don't think there's going to be any aesthetic that's going to detract from the landscape already that exists in that stretch of High Street.
I guess not necessarily related to this specific project, but how often does the town do a comprehensive zoning review? Is that-
So right now, we're doing the comprehensive
Right now.
plan rewrite. So our understanding is that once that is done, we're gonna immediately go right into rezoning.
Okay.
When do you expect that to be done?
Hopefully sometime in 2025. I don't, we're, we're moving along, but I'm reluctant to put a timeline on this, but we're hoping sometime in 2025, we'll be able to finish this plan.
I know that Galena has come in and had a consultant do their plan. Betterton is going the other way by having a group of volunteers through their Planning and Zoning Commission. How are you doing your plan? Is that in-house?
Ours is gonna be in-house with us. I will likely be helping author and making whatever edits needed. That is the tentative plan. There may be a consultant who comes up with certain parts of it, but that hasn't been agreed to. So, but our general path going forward is to do this in-house
Do it yourself.
with myself and the planning commission, yes.
Other projects, gentlemen?
Plans are wrapping up. The comp plan is ongoing. The 10-year recreation master plan is wrapped up. Monday night, Jim Bogdan's presenting that to the mayor and council. So that'll be posted on the town website once the packet's posted, which is probably going to be tomorrow afternoon sometime. It's a good plan. It looks at all of the town parks and trails, and, there'll be capital projects that spin out from it, so they're gonna have to find a priority amongst the other capital project lists. The Historic District Commission's Historic District Design Guidelines are currently under review right now, so that they're being revised, and that's with an outside group as well. The Parks Plan was also written by an outside group, but there was a lot of input from the Rec Commission. As I said, Jim Bogdan's presenting on that Monday night. We had a video conference call today with the consultant working on the Historic District Guidelines, and Nell Zeal, the Certified Local Government Officer from the Maryland Historic Trust, to basically lay out a timeline. I think we've all come to the conclusion we're about a month slower than we wish to be. But given the holidays and all, that's to be expected. So we're thinking that plan is going to be available for public review probably end of January, beginning of February, with it being adopted probably sometime before March. Can't say for certain, but that too is a plan that design guideline is 10 years old. Was adopted in June of 2012, which means it probably got started sometime in 2010. So it was in desperate need of being modernized. And I think that's it as far as what's in the works as far as paper is concerned. A couple other things, the Talkie Tower.
Yeah, the planning commission gave a favorable recommendation for a zoning text amendment for Talkie to build a television tower that also may have the ability to provide Wi-Fi down High Street and within a certain area. So the tower, there are conditions in the way that it would be used within a certain zone, but that has been given favorable recommendation. That'll be introduced this coming Monday, the mayor and council meeting, and then there'll be a public hearing on it January 6th.
Will that help with like events like Tea Party and?
That's what we're hoping. Yeah, that's what we're hoping. Because that's done now. I guess some sort of IT trailer comes in to boost capacity. And hopefully the range is enough to get down that far to the waterfront to be able to cover.
They can't tell ahead of time if it will be, or?
I don't think they're presented that. I mean,
The initial tower is just for television reception for their local TV channels, but they did ask when they presented this that there was an addition that they can add on to the tower that would have internet capability. That's the extent of what we know. Talkie
Okay.
would know more about the technical specifications.
Yeah.
But was that a part of their proposal to you, to the town, including internet enhancement?
I don't think so. The initial ask was for television. What's processing through right now are the specifics to allow it as a permitted use, and I guess also to deal with the height.
Well, the height should be fine. There's something we're good on the code on the height, but yeah, it's just to use it within the specified zone, and also to make sure that there's not potentially a proliferation of other towers, but in the area, but there's still enough wiggle room for other uses as well.
And what was the location of that again?
They want to put it on their lot at 99 Talbot Boulevard.
So for the recreational projects, are they funded by grants, or does the town have a budget for those?
We've got still about $113,000 ARPA line for recreational projects.
Nice.
Yeah. Now, of course, on paper, it's all been spent. Lights at Gateway Park, which is going to be nice, because Gateway Park is kind of the adrenaline park, or I call it the sweat park. You know, it's where people go and they don't just kind of stroll, listen to the birds. There's activity there, sports activity with a basketball court. That's also proposed as sort of one of the locations if the town's going to get into the skate park business. And there's discussion about whether the town's going to get into the skate park business or not. But that's proposed to have lights to be able to allow after dark activity. The thinking really with the town parks is no activity in dark, because not only just for the sake of the light glare to the neighborhoods, Gateway Park doesn't really have any neighbors to complain. So if you're going to have people in there after dark, that's the park to put it in. Talking about another kayak launch at the marina, and a bunch of benches, just some amenities to cheery up some of the other parks. We do have a pending grant that was put in for the equity greenscape from DNR maybe about 6 weeks ago. I wrote that grant for a playground, a good-sized playground, about 2,500 square foot footprint for Bailey Park, because Bailey Park is, kind of undeveloped at this point. You've got the dog park in there, so the playground would be a nice amenity, and now there's public arts going in as well. So Bailey Park is starting to pick up. There's still about 16 acres of wide open space, but there are amenities that have been on the drawing board forever that are finally making their way into Bailey Park.
Is that new public art or part of the 24, whatever?
Yeah, it's one of the Voica collection pieces. It's called Darbar. It's huge, and it's there on sort of the bend on the other side from the dog parks. So, along the trail.
Okay.
So, otherwise,
On the waterfront, is there a time frame for getting those plans for 99 Cannon and the Armory submitted and reviewed? The reason I ask is obviously the waterfront is a focal point for our economic development activity.
Right.
And the rumor mill has it that the fellow from 99 Cannon has sort of rejigged his plan to do a restaurant only. Is that
that's correct. There's no more hotel portion of it.
There was a threat about continuing legal action against changing the Armory. Is that true?
I guess you'd have to ask the people who are going to sue us. But there's process, and if people feel like they've been denied process, the courts, where they go for redress of it. So I'm not going to say one way or another. But 98 Cannon, the last discussion I had with Mr. Ergo, which was a while ago, probably August, was his plan to be up and running by May of 2026. So we'll be another year without a restaurant in the marina. And it affects the marina. I mean, there's no doubt the marina numbers are down. But knock wood, year and a half from now, we've got an up and functioning restaurant in town again at the waterfront.
How about residential development in the community, in the town district?
I
think the only thing that's still going along is Radcliffe Meadows.
Yeah.
That's still, going through the review process. They did show up at our last planning commission meeting to discuss further, but again, can't give a timeline on when that's going to be ready or ready for
Where
funding.
is Radcliffe?
And the Talbot Street.
Yeah.
And Talbot Boulevard. I think, 140 units?
Something like that,
Yeah.
yeah.
Is there an affordable housing component to that development?
I don't recall offhand.
Questions from other commission members?
Do you have any information about what tourism is bringing into the town? Financial or numbers of visitors to the area?
We keep a count at the visitor center.
Okay.
Now all that is, somebody walks in the door. What the level of service they receive is not tallied.
Okay.
But we do keep a monthly tally of how many come and go. And then we keep an eye on how the hotel occupancy tax goes. So to date, I think we've received about 96,000 and some change of the hotel tax. And last year, I think it was about 144, 148, some ballpark around there, little less than 150.
And has there been any impact in the town with the Airbnbs, positive or negative?
That, again, depends on who you ask. The council's been working on a short-term rental ordinance that's had some fits and starts. We do have one now that's, basically all it says is you're obliged to pay your taxes. But, a robust one actually talks to occupancy, inspections, noise control, garbage control, things like that. And it really hasn't gotten far, other than some discussions and a couple of drafts that have gone through the mayor and council, but no action.
And how does the town drive tourism traffic? Like, do you have like a marketing department or is it?
Yes, Main Street.
Main Street, okay.
Yeah, well, depends on, again, who you ask. We've got an arts and entertainment district that I guess has got in some capacity the obligation to promote the arts anyway. Main Street, obviously, the county department, Chamber of Commerce. So very little of that actually comes out of town hall.
Okay.
Do you do an end-of-the-year report in either of your departments or?
We basically wrap that up, I think, when the mayor gives the state of the town.
Okay.
That's a lot of looking back. Typically, that report's given March,
Okay.
so we'll start pulling those numbers together. And of course, each department does keep, like the police keep their own statistics. We do an annual report for the historic district, so anything that's transited through, the applications that have transited through the Historic District Commission are reported up to the Maryland Historic Trust once a year. I think that deadline is end of January, beginning of February, so that's right about this time of year we get going on that one. We pull in a number of building permits and report those out, so it's, does it all go in one compendium? No, but if anybody's interested in sort of the specific details of pieces, yeah, we can provide that. And again, the mayor's state of the town addresses those just sort of as a list of bullets, not necessarily, in depth.
Okay, thanks.
Jamie's got your contact information and contacts you frequently. If commission members have any follow-up questions or, like me, I'll think of a whole bunch of questions after the meeting. We'll go through Jamie as our point of contact. But thank you for coming in and sharing these projects with us.
I
Paul's
did
got
have
a
one other
question.
question. I understand there's a candidate for Tim O'Brien's seat now. Are you planning to do a special election?
January 21st.
January 21st, okay.
I believe the deadline to drop off your application is December 20th, but check with the clerk's office on that one. I think it's the 20th. That also could be the 21st.
And
Well, there's things
whoever
like that.
gets elected gets seated immediately, right?
Yeah, the next meeting, they'll be seated and serve out the term until the November election. And then the seat will be open again in November. There is a Mexican restaurant, or at least someone's paid the delinquent water bill.
Yeah, we saw that.
That was at the farmer's table. But there's nothing of evidence to show that Chipotle is going anywhere. Because they think that's been the conjecture, Chipotle's coming to Taco Bell. Well, no, Taco Bell still sits empty, and we've heard nothing from Chipotle, so there you go. I think that's restaurant update.
Keep the phone line open.
Nah, we do what we can. Yeah, we get Jamie's weekly report as well, so.
Good. Thanks again, guys. Appreciate it.
Yep, you're welcome.
You're always welcome.
Thank you,
Thank you.
appreciate that.
Okay, Rose, you have a report on the museums of Kent.
I do. So, first and foremost, I think we've reported that the Kent County Visitor Center has offered the museum.
Can't hear you, Rose.
Has offered us a museum's wall. We have the two walls when you walk into the museum, into the visitor center, it's the far back corner. So on that far back corner, we'll have one wall that will be sort of fun facts of like, did you know type things and just random points of history that we can interchange over time. The other wall will have a map of Kent County, and we'll also have cutout blocks that are painted of each museum, and they'll be posted with the names on the walls, just to bring more, a greater awareness to the museums.
Right. Refresh my memory, Rose, what's on that wall now?
The back wall had all of the trophies. That trophy case went away late summer. They moved that, I think, to the town. They moved that to the town, and then that wall's now empty. It was pretty crowded when I was in there on Saturday because that was the clothing area for Dickens weekend. So couldn't really see too much of the walls. Also at the visitor center, we have a new sterling figure display. It's a plexiglass box that will change out the sterling figures that are housed out at the Kent Museum, just to sort of get them into the public eye. We just finished the first semester of having an intern, and two of the projects that he completed was the virtual driving tour from one museum to another. And once we have the links, once that's housed on the museum's website, then I can get you the links to that. The other thing that he completed was the historical walking tour that will now be online as well. It'll be a QR code or a link that you can go to and follow from your phone.
So Rose, real quick, how would a person find those? Like if I come to Chestertown or Kent County, how do I find that?
We'll have it advertised in the different brochures that we're doing. It'll also be on the museum's website, the county's website. We'll make sure that we push it out. Like I said, I don't have it, so I don't know exactly where it's going to be housed yet. So they are anticipating that we'll have an intern again next semester, and we will have to prioritize what activities that we want them to start with. And I think it'll probably be an interview with one of the gentlemen that started the Massey Air Museum. And I have been busy working on Passport for the driving tour, which will also be used for the WCO class that the museums is going to do again this year. And basically these would be available anytime throughout the year. And Judy, I know you had inquired before about advertisements, and I think the museums board liked that idea, but to do it more as an insert in the back instead of my little template, I made up fake advertisements, but I think they wanted to do that as an insert. That way, as things change and flows differently, we don't have to reprint all of our books. Our books will still be, our passports will still be good. I've also updated the Eastern Neck Island, the Visitor Contact Station brochure, the Kent Museum's brochure, and I'm currently working on the Waterman's Museum and the Wharton Point Schoolhouse, because they don't have brochures. So working on that, and then I'll work with the other members of the board to file for a grant with Stories of the Chesapeake in January, is what the plan is. That will take care of printing all of those brochures and the passports. That's all I've got.
Questions of Rose? Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
When was the last time those brochures were edited or updated?
I don't think Waterman's has ever had one. African American Schoolhouse, Wharton Point, I don't think has had one. Eastern Neck Island, they have had a series, and I honestly don't know the date on it, Judy.
They were just rack cards too, weren't they?
Yeah, they were just the rack cards here. And the Farm Museum has been, I can show you the last one I have, so it's pretty old.
Good job. Yeah, really, congratulations on all that work.
Thank you.
Rose, was the African-American schoolhouse subject to considerable renovation recently?
I don't know,
I want to say yes, Paula, but I don't remember
but I think that was
specifics.
before I came that it was
Yeah.
all done.
But I
So
can
it's been
find out
completed?
yet.
I
Find
think
out.
it has.
Okay.
I remember those discussions, but I don't remember where they landed.
Yeah, yeah.
Thanks, Rose. Jim, you're just in time for staff reports.
Great, thank you, sorry about that, guys.
Welcome home.
The weather did not cooperate for a day of having to run to different places for different meetings, but it is what it is. So, basically, for staff report, just November and December have been kind of just, I don't want to say odd months, but just, it's the end of the year, we're trying to get everything in, keep the projects moving, but also people trying to take vacations, and, there's been, people get sick, so it's just been trying to keep everything flowing and keeping the projects moving along. So I don't have any specific updates, but if there's any questions on anything from staff reports, I'm always happy to share any information with you there.
Yep, and we all read your weekly staff reports that you send us, Shelley.
So I just had a couple questions from those staff reports. So I don't quite understand what the Avail project is and the employee thing and how the state got involved or whatever. I didn't quite understand that one.
So the Maryland Department of Commerce is the one that initiated that project. It started, they're in Queen Anne's County, in Millington, but on the Queen Anne's County side. So they're a Queen Anne's County business, and they wanted to expand where they were. They didn't have enough property there to do what they wanted to do, so they started looking at other sites. And so originally, Commerce was working with them to expand their employee count there, and Commerce was working on a MEDAF grant. And a MEDAF grant, I don't know the acronym offhand, but basically, it's a conditional loan that becomes a grant if you meet certain conditions. And what it has evolved to, and there's been a couple of, is it 45 or is it 60 they want to do in their new facility? Can they do it with the holding tank? So there's been a couple starts and stops and changes to the process, but where we are now, they plan on creating 45 new jobs at the facility where the old Infinity recycling plant is. They are doing improvements to the process, or to the plant, but not increasing the footprint. So it will be just improvements with inside to do their electrical circuit boards that they produce. I'm sure there's a more technical term for it.
That works for
Yeah.
me. Thanks.
So,
Okay.
yeah, and with the MEDAF conditional loan, there is a 10% county match requirement. So working with county administrator and that to bring that before the commissioners for their consideration.
So it's Kent and Queen Anne's?
Not now. Now it is just creating those 45 jobs in Kent.
Oh, okay.
At the
At
Infinity
the,
facility.
I see, got it.
Yes.
That's like a satellite.
Yes, but
Got
they
it.
do have to still maintain, part of the condition is you maintain your 117 employees in the Queen Anne site, and you add 45 new full-time jobs at the new site as well.
Got it, got it.
Maryland Economic Development Assistance. I don't know what that, the fund.
Yeah. No, there's an acronym for all of them.
Yeah.
And, anybody else? You mentioned the ag grants in one of the weekly updates.
Yes.
And I saw that the Queen Anne County just announced that theirs are available. I just want to know our time frame and where are we this year with it?
We just saw that this morning, and Katie and I were working on it, and we hope to have it out before the end of the year, but no later than January. And we plan to probably do the cutoff the same time as Queen Anne, so that we can kind of align with the other grants, which I believe theirs was February 15th, Katie?
The
But we-
10th or 15th.
We just saw it this
Yeah,
morning,
did-
so.
yeah.
But we are working on it. Katie is working on finishing up 2024. So,
It'll be out in January.
at the latest, yes. We hope sooner, but like I said, end of the year, everybody's trying to get meetings in before the end of the year, so it's been a little bit of juggling. So, and we want to, we want to show up to represent Kent County, so sometimes we just have to
We
make it
did
work.
take handouts this morning to the extension office,
Ag
at breakfast,
breakfast.
so.
You did, you said you had handouts?
Yeah, we
But it
took
didn't,
those with us
okay.
this morning.
Good, good. Did you hand them out, like when I went last year, I like ran around and put them on the tables because nobody was coming to the table in the back? Did you have this thing?
Yeah, hopefully Dwayne was going to distribute them after.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But we also are going to, push it out through, we made contact there with the soil conservation, so they can push it out in their newsletter. Dwayne can push it out to through University of Maryland Extension, their listserv as well. So just trying to find some different avenues to push it out.
Don't forget the
So
high
if you
school.
think of any,
the high school ag program.
yep. Do that as well.
Other questions of Jamie?
No.
Unfinished business. What do we have?
The business survey?
There's nothing has been done on that since we went out. Honestly, we haven't had the opportunity to get together and kind of decompress all that information and try to sort it out.
What's your best guess?
We do have a meeting with our CRM software HubSpot, because we want to talk to him about how do you collect the data and then put it into the system so that you can generate results and/or reports. And I can't even remember when, we got it scheduled, and it's before the end of the year. That's all I remember. I'm living daylight compartments here. But I think it's next Monday, actually. So we'll be talking to them about that. So maybe sometime in January, maybe not for the January meeting, because the next 2 weeks are just full. So we probably do it in January, probably report in February. My best guess.
Jamie, it is on Monday. I just looked.
Thank you.
Is there any further progress on the brownfields assessment?
No. Nope. All of those properties are owned, and each one is very different. So as to who owns it, and are they willing to sell, and can it be developed? So it's something I think I'm gonna have to pull together a couple of people to say, let's look at this and see what the possibilities are. And again, it's just timing to get people together, so, yeah, great question. We're also looking at county-owned properties, which is another part of it. And we at least have them all identified, but now we need to find out, we know which ones are obviously being used by the county, but then there might be one in the town that the town's using, like for a yard for vehicles or something. So, like, I need to reach out to the towns on the town property to say, is this something that is developable, or is this something that you're using for operations, kind of thing, to figure out whether there is any potential there for development. And like that all has to be weaved in with the day-to-day.
New business. We're rocketing through this agenda. Anybody, items for next month? We do have the elections.
And you guys had asked for more information on the dashboard, like from Erin, and I'm gonna see if she's available to attend the January meeting for that, to kind of just go through some of the data and what it means specifically to Kent County.
And then I had another thought that I saw in the paper, that the Shore Community Outreach Team for the overview of community health got an award, Scott, S-C-O-T. And so I thought it'd be nice to have Zach Royston come and talk to us about the actual health of the people in the community, where we are, pockets of concern, progress.
Yeah, good idea.
You can definitely invite Zach. He's attended a couple of our meetings, which has been great. He's trying to get out into the community a little more, so that's great.
And he was at that superintendent intro meeting, that's where I met him,
Great.
at Dixon.
Oh, that's right. Yes, yep.
Yep.
Perfect.
Other new business or other items for the agenda for January? Well, then we have a whole audience full of KRM employees. A for Brian or Kate. You're always welcome here. Good to see you guys back.
Do you have an update or anything to share?
We were just here as visitors. Thank you, though.
Well,
So Kate sent me a message earlier today, and there's a report that's come out by the Maryland Economic Development Commission. I want to think that's the right acronym, and the correct name, and it was for the Department of Commerce. The report is great. Nancy and I have talked about it, but what is happening at Commerce, they are working on a strategic plan, and we're hoping that strategic plan will then follow the work that was done from that report. We're a little concerned because when we hear the Secretary of Commerce talk, we talk a lot about attraction, and we talk a lot about biomed and aerospace, but today was the first, and I heard him talk today at lunchtime. Today was the first, and I've heard him speak 3 times about the changes at Commerce. Today was the first time he mentioned retention and expansion of existing businesses.
which
That
should be
gave
job
me a
one.
little pause, because retention and expansion is our bread and butter here in Kent County. And, so we can't lose sight of that.
Yep, yep.
So.
And those recommendations are very clear in this report.
Can you share that?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Judy. I was going to send it out to everyone as well. And there's also the Maryland, the University of Maryland Extension Office did their annual report for the state of Maryland. So I'll send that out to everyone as well. But they do reports that are county specific that'll come out in April. So that'll be interesting too for Kent County. But there's a lot of programs that they offer that I didn't know anything about. So it
Must
really
kept
is pretty
secret,
cool.
yeah.
Yeah, so I'll send that out as well.
So back to that Commerce report, I read an article that said that one out of every five businesses, about 20% of startups rather, fail in the first year. And then 66% of new businesses are out of business within the decade.
Yep,
So that's definitely supports your point.
yep.
If somebody makes it to 10 years, it's a big deal. I mean, running a business is
And you got 6,
hard
yeah,
work.
and-
As everybody knows.
yeah.
Yeah,
And Brambles is 65,
65, yeah,
and you guys are 100, right?
3,
8.
8 now?
Do the math on two.
Oh, that's quick.
Yeah, 808.
It just seemed like it was yesterday we did the 100.
I know.
Okay.
We haven't aged 8 years since then.
No.
If I could actually jump back on that report,
Would love it.
it is really good.
It is.
Like,
Yes.
I'm shocked that this came from the state of Maryland, and I think it's a real opportunity. I mean, we chuckle and we laugh that there's no way the current administration is going to follow through with the things that are in this report. But it's a written report that was put out by this council. It's the Maryland Economic Development Council, I think, it was a specific group tasked with writing this report. And it's business people, and it basically says Maryland is not good for business.
Yep.
And these are the changes that need to be made, and it's great. So
it's our opportunity to say, hey, don't ignore this. Like, we should be loud about it, because otherwise we're like, oh, that's wonderful, great, they're gonna do this. They're not. Without, some prompting and urging and people saying, yay, you did a good job, now what? So I just would encourage everybody to read it and maybe let's be a squeaky wheel.
Well, and who doesn't know that already?
But
It's,
people like to put icing on stuff, and that's.
yeah, I mean, but it's not new news. It's just I'm glad, I agree with you that they finally said it.
Well, and it's very pointed in what needs to change. Well, the tax rate needs to come down from 8.95 to 5, and phase that in over time. And it shows, and yes, you'll think that's a loss of revenue for the state, but actually in studies it shows that it's not. And our neighboring states are doing way better in these areas. So how do you compete?
If anybody gets the weekly newsletter from the Maryland Department of Commerce, they are on those statistics. So I'll just forward it to everybody. It's just so you can kind of get a glimpse, and if you want to, you can sign up from there. But they talk about the tax rate, and they'll put Virginia and Delaware right there beside it, and Maryland does not look good.
No.
It's very challenging.
Does not look good for quite some time, and the trend needs to be reversed.
And we're going to have such a crisis if those layoffs happen and, the workforce is not as productive. And, the governor's going to be between a rock and a hard place big time. And that's the time to make a change. That's the time you can take advantage of the situation, and we'll see what happens.
Mr. Chair, can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
My biggest takeaway from today, a question I'll leave with, that I imagine Jamie knows more about this. Larry mentioned it, but he didn't follow up much. The possibility of 119 new housing units at the end of Talbot Boulevard seems to me to be a big deal.
Yeah.
And we've heard the rumors about it for a little while. So my question is, if the developer is truly serious, what needs to move that forward, and what can be done, if anything? But is that a serious project, and what can make it happen?
And how can we help?
More about that?
I do not. And it's funny because, I was like, when that was like the last thing, I'm like, gosh, we should have led with that, 119 homes.
I thought it was 140.
I thought it was 140.
Oh, 140.
That's even better.
No, it's 140.
Yeah,
What that does to the tax base, to the
My
jobs.
Fabulous.
Yes.
We all know the
Yeah.
ripple effect of that, but
I will follow up on that to see if
seems like it should be
is there anything
something
we
that's
can
front
do?
and center
Sure.
for all of us, for the town.
Yep.
Well, it's going to impact the schools.
Yep.
Garnett's full. What do you do then?
The workforce that we all know we need, all the ripple that we all know. That's it. And what concerns me is something like that, it's been floating around for a while. So after a while, if it doesn't get legs, it disappears, and the developer goes and finds a better site, as you mentioned, Delaware or someplace else to do it. And how serious is it, and what's a holdup if there is one?
Good point. Thank you.
We had, just by way of advising you, Brian, we had a very good presentation at our last meeting from the folks from Millington Crossing about their plans for developing that area, which was also pretty exciting, I think.
Did Russ Richardson come in?
Yes,
Yeah.
and his architect. And they had a really detailed plan on layout and aesthetics and approach to integrating commercial and residential activity. I think they did a very nice job, yeah.
And, the town of Millington is working with 2 property owners for residential developments of approximately, and I'm not going to get the numbers right, but I'm going to say at least 100 homes each. So, if one of those, I understand, 2 to 3 years is ready. The other one, still negotiating, But there are things moving ahead, and then the senior housing project, the horizontal infrastructure has begun there with Home Partnerships Inc., so that's 53 units. I always get the numbers wrong, so don't quote me, I'd have to look it up, but I think it's 53 senior units. And then, of course, rehabilitating the elementary school as a community resource center with childcare. The food pantry is going to locate there. They're hoping to find healthcare. They're hoping to find like a coffee shop. You know, they've got a vision of what they want this place to be for the community, which is great.
Do they have money yet?
They have some. They have some. They have gotten funding through DHCD. They have gotten funding through the Rural Maryland Council, the Upper Shore Regional Council, the counties, through the Rural Maryland Economic Development Fund, that $10 million that came down. The money from Wharton got redirected to that project for that infrastructure because it was ready to go. We had real prospects there, so the commissioners reallocated it to that project.
And then there's also the Galena annexation
Correct.
proposal, which is more development there.
Anything else for the good of the cause? It's been a good little conversation. I did start about the meeting, we're talking about the elections. Also, on the near horizon is the fact that 2 commission members will be rotating off in April. And that's the S team, Sandy and me. And we'll be thinking about looking at our list of those people over time who have expressed an interest, polishing and dusting off that list, and seeing what members we would advance to the commissioners who make that appointment.
And Dick, I'm glad you mentioned that. Please encourage anyone that is interested to fill out a interest form so we can put them on the list.
That is the hardest thing to find, that interest form.
We can send it again.
No, I mean, it'd be just, don't send, but you should have it more easily accessed. I always have the hardest time, and people who have contacted me saying, how do you find that form for?
I'm happy, if they just
Yeah.
call me, I'll send it directly to
Yeah,
them.
yeah, well, I have another source who can find it for me too, I'm just saying, it's kind of tricky to find
We
it.
know you can find it.
So I have to have help.
Thank you all. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second? We are adjourned.
Thank you.
Let you get stuck on
Turn
the
your
road.
mics off in case anything you say.